What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland with Lauren Khalil and Tommy Marquez. How's everybody doing today? Feeling good?
Good. Ready to go. Ready to tackle the day.
Outstanding.
It's opening day, you know?
It is opening day. More for Tommy to gamble on as Major League Baseball gets.
Whoa. Well, I mean, if by that you mean fading my Oakland A's, because we are on a path to 110 losses this year, that's for sure.
Oh my God.
Major League movie here.
Oh.
Well, we got a busy show today. We are going to go through our headlines of the week. We have an interview with Grace Walton, who is now the second place finisher in the Worldwide Open. And then later on in the show, we're going to bring on our good friend Jeremy Austin, the mayor of Australian CrossFit, to talk all things quarterfinals. Quarterfinals set to begin next week with teams, and there's a couple weeks after that, and then we get going with individuals. But first, we want to thank our sponsor for today, and that is Thirdzy. Thirdzy has been an absolute game changer when it comes to me getting higher quality sleep. As I've said before, I still don't get enough, but the sleep that I do get, the quality has gone through the roof thanks to Thirdzy. Now, Thirdzy is a collagen-based drink powder that helps with joint and connective tissue repair, and it has other ingredients like magnesium, L-theanine, and GABA. Those help calm your central nervous system and support deep and REM sleep. We all know that high quality rest is as vital to your performance as consistent workouts and nutrition. So to get the benefits from your training, your body needs to repair and rebuild, and Thirdzy absolutely makes that easier. You can go to thirdzy.com and use our code TEF to save 20%. Or if you're watching this, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen. I'm really excited. They've been so great to me, the folks at Thirdzy, and they send me like a regular supply every month. They just sent me like a pack of travel packs too.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I got those too.
Oh,
those
man,
they live in my suitcase now. Mm-hmm. Like the whole bag lives in my suitcase.
It's a black bag too, so it looks bougie.
Right.
You're like,
it does. I was like, what is this?
Special.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. So I've set that aside, and that will be the first thing that I pack. So guys, look, if you're looking to improve your sleep, and I was, when we started talking to them, I said, I have a superpower, and that is that I don't sleep. Well, this has changed that. I get to sleep faster. I don't wake up as much at night. I wake up feeling, more rested than I would have had I not taken it. So definitely check it out. Thirdzy.com, and you can use the code TEF to save 20%. Okay, well, let's get into the show today because we actually have a lot we want to talk about, starting with headlines. Let's get to the headlines for the day. I wish I had some news music to play, but
yeah, I can hear it in my head.
That thing comes.
Yes.
You want the news, you know how it's supposed to sound, right? Some orchestral music, but hey, we'll work on that. Maybe we can get someone to record us a headline stinger. But first off, we've had a change in the overall leaderboard for the Worldwide Open. Men's side has more or less stayed the same. Yonakoski still your winner there, but now Grace Walton, who was on top of the overall leaderboard once everything closed, she received a score adjustment for 24.3. Her time was a little bit slower, and that means that Mirjam von Rohr is your Open winner. So congratulations to Mirjam von Rohr.
Did they include hey, I checked the announcement again,
Mirjam
but
I should say, sorry, Mirjam.
Yeah, I checked the announcement. Did they talk about the whole penalty process of who else they gave assessed penalties to?
I have not seen that yet.
Okay, because I mean, I know that they want to get the announcement of who won out in front, but I know they gave Grace a penalty they mentioned for 2 bar muscle-ups with the feet rising above. But I'm just curious, where the full scope of what was there an appeals process, anything like that? Just because it seemed like it was just dropped on us all of a sudden.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, usually that does. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tommy, but usually that, like you said, doesn't that come with a larger sort of explanation about? Or eventually, that comes out like a larger explanation of everybody who got penalized for each event or workout.
No doubt.
But I'm trying to remember if there was ever a detailed description of penalties in the Open or if it was just in quarterfinals, because I remember seeing the penalties. I specifically think of the year of the shuttle runs, and you could see everybody who was dinged for those, and it outlined those details. But I personally don't remember ever seeing details from the Open and penalties.
Usually, if it affects the overall leaderboard in any way, shape, or form, they will probably give an explanation of it, or at least they should.
Mhm.
What you're talking about, the list was definitely quarterfinals, but I know they're going to review the top athletes, and it's probably going to be a top down process as far as like, let's make sure the top athletes are good to go so we can announce that, and then keep
Mhm.
going down. But yeah, I don't know. I would also like, and maybe I missed this, but for both Miriam and Grace, you could vote on their videos because they were posted up there, but I couldn't find the results of it.
Hmm.
So like once
Mm.
you voted, it didn't tell you. That used to tell you like how many good videos, how many bad videos, how many needs modification. I would
Mhm.
love to be able to see that.
Yeah.
Ju- But
I don't like it. We kind of came out of nowhere because we were actually, it was during while we were recording Death by that
Yeah.
dropped at Justin
Mhm.
Cotler on. And once I saw the score, it was like, oh, yeah, her time was, I think she lost 12
It was
seconds.
like 15, yeah, close
Yeah,
to 15
something in
seconds
there. But that's
for
what
the 2
was
bar
enough to bump
muscle-ups.
Miriam above her on the overall leaderboard. But that's where we stand now going into quarterfinals.
Yeah, well, the
Mhm.
day before, right? The day prior to that announcement, I had talked to Grace. We interviewed her for this show, and at the time, she was atop of the leaderboard, and kind of putting two and two together on when this announcement's going to happen. I asked if she had heard anything from CrossFit, and she said she hadn't.
Hmm.
So that leads me to believe that there was very little time for an appeal or any sort of back and forth, if you will, and it was maybe a little bit quicker turnaround than we expected.
Well, we are still trying to track down Adrian Bosman and get him on the show
Mhm.
here. So that is something that we can add to the list of questions that we want to ask him. But hopefully more information coming on that. Next thing that happened, big going on this week, if you're looking for stuff to watch, is that the Danielle Brandon documentary has been released, and I have yet to watch it. I think you both have seen it, and
Mhm.
I have yet to hear a bad thing about it. I mean, everyone who's watched it has said it is very good. So if you have not checked it out, that's available on Rad's YouTube channel. Correct?
Yeah, and it's
Yes,
free. It's free to
yeah, for
everyone,
hour and 11
which
minutes.
is cool.
It's
Wow,
awesome.
cool. Yeah, so
Rem-
you go check that out.
Reminds me of the storytelling that used to happen.
Yeah, the good old days.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, I think it's, and we talked about this when we had Danielle on. I think it's cool that this type of documentary, from what I've heard, and again, I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard from people who have, is that it is sort of a departure from the typical, oh, we're just going to follow you through a competition and see cool slow-mo shots of you working out. And it's actually more of a deep dive into who she is and where she came from. And CrossFit is sort of just a backdrop to that.
Yeah,
It's the human behind the athlete, and
Right.
if you even look at the trends on social media, people are less interested in the, like, perfection that
Mm.
we see through content, that people wanna know what's under the hood, what's the nitty-gritty, what makes this person tick, and I think Rad did a really great job at casting, the characters in the story to help give background and context. That, I mean, they did a phenomenal job, so kudos to Rad and
I will-
Danielle for being open to doing that.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. Well, another thing that happened here, and this was released by CrossFit. It was on their Instagram page, and they also put out a formal press release. Is that CrossFit is going to offer 50 $10,000 grants to schools in the first half of 2024. Funds will enable teachers and administrators to outfit school affiliates with equipment and introduce students to the concept of fitness for a lifetime. I think this is an absolute fantastic move on CrossFit's part, because if you're just, for two reasons. First of all, because of the stated reason in the headline about introducing kids to fitness that will help them for the rest of their lives. The second is, from a sports standpoint, is that you're building fans. You're getting them interested in the sport, and maybe they'll go dressed as Rich Froning for Halloween. This is a win-win all around, and we've seen that before. We've seen kids dress up as Rich. I think 6-7 years ago that happened. I
Yeah,
remember seeing some stuff on Instagram about that. But
he
there's
painted
a,
the whole like
yeah, the
5 o'clock
beard.
shadow and
Yeah.
everything.
Uh-huh. Yeah, since 2019, CrossFit has awarded 57 grants to K through 12 schools. In total, 407 school affiliates are operating today. So uh, I love everything about this.
Mhm.
Absolutely, and I mean to kind of tie a common thread between what we were just talking about. Like in the Danielle Brandon documentary, it talks about the exposure to CrossFit, and they interview, a former coach and like basically PE teacher that had the foresight to incorporate those types of elements into their program. And
Mhm.
like you look at someone that like Danielle, as they tell her story, that like didn't have the easiest upbringing, but find something there, and then you fast forward 10 plus years down the line, and this is her career.
Mhm.
It brings her fulfillment, brings her happiness as an outlet for her, and has allowed her to have a successful professional career, beyond just the health benefits, which are the foundation of all this. But yeah, like these are the important seeds being planted. And
Mhm.
I mean, the importance of building these movement foundations, these health foundations into children and the next generation of soon to be adults, is paramount, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think especially when we're in a world now, at least here in North America, in the United States, where you know music and PE programs are sort of the first two things that are on the chopping block. The fact that they're willing, excuse me, they're willing to put up some cash to help with that, I think is outstanding.
It's so backwards to me, right? Like
Agreed.
it, I would guess that for majority of the people, that if you were like, hey, what are some things that genuinely bring you joy and you feel better after?
Mhm.
If you polled most people, probably the top two things would involve either quality time with people, movement,
Mhm.
and maybe music.
Yeah.
And those are both wrapped into those types of things that you mentioned that get booted from most programs. So hopefully this can help, spawn more physical education programs, more CrossFit programs, globally for youth, and set them up just for a better quality of life moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Less math, more PE.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. Was it
Yep.
education is important, but big muscles are important to her.
Yeah, exactly.
Having a good power clean is important to her. That's what it should be. But I love everything about this. I think it's a great move from CrossFit. So
Yeah.
definitely wanted to draw some attention to that. Well, speaking of the youth and getting them involved in the sport, there's a competition going on right now as we speak over in Europe, and it's called the Crown Competition.
Yes, it has evolved from another competition that was previously held over in Europe, hosted by the program, which is a prominent European athlete camp training program over there that's based out of Spain. John Christian Singleton, who's the founder of it and the head coach, started this iteration of the competition last year. He was in. I did a sit down interview with him that will be up on our YouTube, that you can watch the full thing. But he was inspired by events like the Tahoe Rogue Again Faster Throwdown, where it was
Yeah, that was
so.
way back.
Dude, and I mentioned in the interview, I think that's essential CrossFit watching, just because it was so much more about just the athletes and the
Hmm.
people there than it necessarily was the competition. That was almost like secondary at times. And he just wanted to give a really cool experience like that for the next generation of athletes that he thinks could be the foundation of the sport moving forward. And um, a couple of things to note is that it's all expenses paid for the athletes. They don't have to worry about anything with regards to finance. It's six young men, six young women, and they get basically in this awesome like compound castle in Mallorca. So it's like a really cool experience. And there's a ton of additional benefits outside of competition that he really wanted to focus on.
Yeah. Well, here's what he had to say about that, and this is from the interview that Tommy did earlier.
So one of the biggest aspects is literally just getting the athletes together so they can interact in a more relaxed environment, and they form the friendships. We noticed it over years. We'd run camps specifically for teenage athletes, and what we'd find is that literally years after the camp, these athletes would still be messaging, talking, following each other's journey, and some of them stayed in CrossFit, some of them went off into different avenues, whatever it may be. But actually, through that experience, they were able to form friendships with people with similar interests. And I think the hard thing is a lot of gyms, they might have one teenage CrossFit athlete who ends up having to train with people who are older than them, and it's just different. When you're with someone your own age, you can relate in a very different way. And so by bringing them together in a relatively non-competitive environment where there is a competition and someone will win at the end, but in the same way as the Tahoe throwdown, really people are just more focused on the experience. And so that's what we wanted to create, was this experience for the athletes where they can form friendships that would hopefully keep them in the sport a bit longer. And as you say, I think it's been very hard, this generation of athletes that we've seen. They've obviously encountered a lot of stress, and it's been a lot of pressure for them. And so hopefully if they can identify with their own generation, have those conversations amongst themselves to keep themselves motivated, hopefully that keeps the likes of Mal or Haley in the sport longer, because I think these athletes are the future of the sport. And if they stay in the sport, it's good for everyone involved. How great would it be to see them competing, being able to support them, and how great would it be if they had a friendship group their own age that allowed them to feel supported as well.
I really like the way that they're approaching that. And as you heard John say, it's about, let's focus on the experience, and maybe the competition, while fun, is the secondary thing. But setting the future of the sport up for success, I think it's a great motivation here.
And I think it brings together some of those things that we were just talking about around things that bring you fulfillment and happiness, whether it's community, exercise. And I think about the friend groups and the lifelong friends that I've been able to formulate and maintain across, decades now. A lot of that centers around really transformative shared experiences, whether that be through sports, through schooling, through employment, like the amount of people that we've met through CrossFit, through training in the gym, things like that are noteworthy, that give us that anchor that we can always harken back to, and acts as the glue for these friendship bonds that hopefully last way longer than the scope of that competition. Like John said, hopefully has ripple effects on their willingness to participate in the sport and maintain a healthy balance that can keep them in the sport longer. It's and you just look at like the top line stuff. If you're a teenager, I get to go to Mallorca, Spain. I get to have an all expenses paid trip, staying in this compound sponsored by Nike. And I get to throw down in some fitness stuff that I already like to do with all these other competitors in this really cool, like, vacation destination style location. Like, I mean,
where do I sign?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like how could you not walk away from that event just being pumped and excited, and having, a new exposure to maybe a new friend group, or maybe people like that you would get, like from summer camp or something like that.
For sure. All right. Next thing we want to talk about, and I mentioned this earlier, is that quarterfinals are on the horizon. The teams start on April 3rd, and then there's a break, and then the individuals and age groups all go the same weekend. So there's going to be a lot of quarterfinals action coming up. We are, like I said earlier, also efforting Adrian Bosman to get him on the show to talk about, take a look back at the Open, but also preview quarterfinals as well. So you two are in, right? You guys are doing it.
Oh yeah.
I haven't gotten my official invite, but yeah, should I have?
I
you
don't know. I didn't get one because I didn't make it, because I didn't do it.
I haven't gotten one yet. I don't think we should have yet. But
I didn't think so either. I know.
Okay.
But yeah, doing it.
Did you do it? Did you do it last year, Lauren? Did you get in? Did you make it?
Every year so far.
Ooh,
I know.
Right.
Look at me go. Look at me go.
There you go. All right.
If it was 10% this year, though, I would not have made it this year.
Doesn't matter. You made it. The streak is alive, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not how, it's how many.
Thanks to week 2, I would have made it even if it were 10%. But I think I may have just missed out for individual, but for masters, yeah.
Nice.
We had 15 plus people from our gym qualify this year, which I think, obviously with the expanded percentage, was a huge, I don't know, like, what's the right word? But it was an accelerant for everyone in terms of like being excited about competing.
Mhm.
And it got a lot more people engaged. And now there's a ton more buzz about in the gym about people just wanting to compete and do this next round. And we're actually going to be hosting, I think we're going to try and host a big community quarterfinals event in the Santa
Oh,
Cruz
cool.
area at our gym
Nice.
for one of the Saturdays, just to have, because some
Yeah.
gyms, like, like if, and we don't know what's coming down the pipe yet, but if rope climbs are involved,
Mhm.
or like wall space, things like that some other gyms just don't have, then
Mhm.
it would be awesome to get together. So I think there's like 6 or 7 individuals, and then just as many masters athletes competing. So people are pumped. I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool opportunity with the expanded field for what you're talking about here. Gyms in the same sort of city getting together and having these sort of informal throwdowns or competitions, and expanding kind of the Friday Night Lights concept outside of your own four walls and bringing
Mhm.
more people in.
Yeah.
And I thought Chase did a really cool job of talking about this on Death By, about the Open now. People say, oh, the Open doesn't matter. Well, it maybe not to the top, but for a lot more people who now can get to quarterfinals, it probably matters more.
Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely.
I thought that was a really cool point. It's been motivation for me to get everything healthied up and get my fitness going, and not try to just like, cram for the final exam. Actually,
We'll
and
see
actually,
you there next year,
yeah,
Sean.
actually, well, look, I was in a qualifying position until my knee decided to be like, hey, I'm going to check
Yeah.
out for a couple weeks. Um, but congratulations to everybody who's moving on to the next stage. The final thing we want to talk about, Lauren, you were on the road in lovely Florida, and that was
Florida.
Florida. That was for the Tactical Games Regional Element Training Center in Holt, Florida.
Yes, in Holt, Florida, but
Where is that?
specifically it's by Pensacola,
Oh,
actually.
the Redneck
Yeah.
Riviera. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but if you think of, like, where these, regional events are, it's
Mhm.
pretty much in the middle of nowhere because they have to be at shooting ranges,
Yeah.
so that's why where cell reception, it's almost like I'm in a black hole, but
Mhm.
these events are really interesting because you truly see kind of how we've been talking about High Rocks and all of the crossover
Yeah.
from CrossFit and, like, obstacle course racing. You see a lot of those similarities within tactical games that a ton of these athletes are either affiliate owners or longtime affiliate goers. A lot of them participated in the Open. You have E. Church, who was at the
Mhm.
CrossFit Games of 2018, and she won this regional event for tactical games. So there's a ton of like really complementary movements that are done in tactical games that you can get from training CrossFit. And I mean, it feels like a CrossFit event in the sense of that community, and like people will give you the shirt off their back. And the
Mhm.
way that you qualify for nationals, there's between like 11 and 12 different regional events throughout the calendar year. And the top 5 at each one will then advance to nationals or
Mhm.
essentially get their ticket, similar to how the sanctional system was back in the day,
Yeah.
where if I had already qualified and gotten my ticket, then just 1 through 6 will punch a ticket to nationals.
Got it.
So
So
a
if anyone
similar
finishes
system
at
to
top
that.
5, it trickles down to the next person.
Yep,
How
correct.
many?
To
And I apologize if you mentioned this and I missed it, but how many qualifying events do they have in their season?
between 11 and 12. Right now there's 11, but they might add another one within a couple of weeks before nationals just to give people the
Yeah.
opportunity to, hey, here's your last chance
Mhm.
to punch a ticket.
And
Mhm.
where will nationals be?
Nationals will be in Texas at
Okay.
the Staccato Ranch. That's kind of the hub that they're based out of.
Okay.
But I mean, they have regional events all over the country. Of
Yeah.
course, depending on what regulations are, because it's a shooting sport.
Mhm.
So
Sure.
you won't see any in California, New York, but
Hey, we got shooting
they have a
ranges here. It's just not just gonna allow you just to like fire indiscriminately, around the place, or probably has the real estate that you need to pull an event off like this. But yeah,
yes.
I think it's great. I love seeing all the crossover with High Rocks and with
Mhm.
tactical games. Anything that allows people to get passionate about fitness and competing, and and it cross pollinates. I'm all for it. Like everyone,
Well, and
God lifts all ships.
one of the guys who finished second at this past regionals, Sal Hernandez, he's been on the podium several times. He did the High Rocks the other week, the same one that Mal O'Brien did. He was like, I just like threw my hat into the ring, did a team. He also does CrossFit. So it's really fascinating to see all this bleed over from other fitness sports, which is cool.
Yeah. And we got guys like Jacob Hebner, who's done really well. Won a couple. He's won what, 3 times or 2 times?
3, I believe.
And then, Jason Kalipa wanting to get involved.
Saxon Panchik.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love it. And it's and we're going to be talking about it more because it's just there's a lot of members of our community who are starting to dip a toe into that. And I really look forward to, I want to see an event so they look like a lot of fun.
I would bet that you could probably pull one off in San Luis Obispo. They have a pretty extensive range down there, including long distance rifle, and there's also just rolling hills out there too. That's
one off at the ranch.
Yeah.
And something else that I really love what Tactical Games is doing this season is one of the events that the elites will compete in is going to be some kind of offsite event that embraces the location that they're in. So when we were in Arizona, there was this, have you guys heard of Bisbee, Arizona? It's this cool little town. They shoot a lot of movies there. It has this old school feel, but there's a ton of very steep stairs, and they had them ruck. It was about 5 miles through that little town, going past like barbershops and Mexican restaurants. And then they have to go up all of these stairs and then down all of these stairs. And then in Florida, they had a 5-mile beach ruck, which, I mean, it's hard enough to run on the sand, let alone have a 30-pound ruck, a 15-pound weighted vest, and you're in sand. So
dang.
R.I.P. calves and feet.
Yeah. I was going to make a Bisbee joke, but I'm not going to do it.
I was going to say, you see them rucking, and then me and Sean are just in the background in the Mexican restaurant, just hammering down.
Throw shoveling chips into our mouth.
Mouthful of flautas.
Well, yeah, it was cool. Congratulations to everybody that was able to qualify for nationals at that event at the Tactical Games. And, Lauren, I know you'll be covering more of that, and we'll be talking about it because I think it's like I said, it's a cool sport. So glad to see that's growing and giving more opportunities for people who are involved in functional fitness to get out there and find their passion for something and, compete against other like-minded individuals and really just embrace that community feel. Because I think that's the one thing that like High Rocks, CrossFit, Strongman definitely has it. Tactical Games is that sense of community where you show up to these events, you might be a newbie, but people are going to help you out as much as they possibly can because they want to see you excel because it makes the competition better and they want to compete against people who are at their best. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. All right, those are your headlines for the week.